wrote it basically. You know, passing Thank God, don't get any crazy. Don't get any crazy ideas. That's right. Myra will definitely time than I do.
No. You're not going to go to spring camp.
hear me okay? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, appreciate that.
Perfect, yes, I think that's a perfect idea. Yes. So we have an online form. And really, sign, everyone has signed up. Sir, we do not have a sign up sheet here.
Well, you know.
No sign-up sheet.
A blank one, I have one.
Soccer practice at 4:30. I gotta coach.
Sir. Right outside the door.
Thank you very much.
Sign-in sheet right outside the door.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to call the meeting of the State Board of Education to order at 10:05 a.m. on Wednesday, August 18th. Today's meeting is being audiocast live on the internet and video recorded. Recordings will be posted on isbe.net after the meeting. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Christine Benson.
Here.
Jaime Guzman.
Here.
Donna Lee.
Present.
David Lett.
Here.
Susie Morrison.
Here.
And Cheryl Reesberg.
Here. So we have a quorum present with 6 members. I just now ask that you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move into our public participation, we have a few items that we want to take care of. We'll first consider the participation of Board Member Roger Eddy via phone due to illness. In accordance with the bylaws of the Illinois State Board of Education, the board may permit a member to participate by other means if they cannot physically attend a meeting because of a personal illness or disability, employment purposes of the business of the public or the business of the public body, or a family or other emergency. Roger may participate in this vote. Susie, do you have a motion?
Yes, Chairman, I do. I move that the State Board of Education hereby permit the participation of Roger Eddy via phone.
Do we have a second to that motion? Thanks, David. Any discussion? Hearing none. Kirsten, you want to call the roll?
Christine Benson.
Aye.
Roger Eddy.
Yes.
Jaime Guzman.
Yes.
Donna Lee.
Yes.
David Lett.
Yes.
Susie Morrison.
Yes.
And Cheryl Reesberg.
Yes, and we wish our board member, Mr. Eddy, a speedy recovery, and just are very grateful that he's taken the time to join us today, as his participation is always incredibly helpful. So thank you, Roger. Throughout today's meeting, I just would like to remind everybody that masks are required in the building, so please keep your mask on throughout today's meeting. And I also wanted to just express my gratitude to board members for us being able to be together for the first time since March of 2020. It's been a challenge, I think, to be doing our work remotely. I know that we're always better when we're together, just as we know our students are when they're in the classroom. So it's just very heartwarming to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to all we can continue to accomplish together over the course of our terms. I know now that Dr. Ayala has a statement to make, which I fully support, and so I'll turn to her.
Thank you, Karen. Before we begin, I just wanted to clarify for everyone who is attending and listening that there will be no items related to masking or to school district recognition on the agenda today. The Illinois State Board of Education will continue to follow the science, the data, and the guidance of public health officials regarding masking. Right now, across our country, and especially in states with no mitigations in place, we are seeing pediatric ICUs at capacity. We're seeing hospitals having to turn away cancer patients and heart attack victims because they have no beds available. On Saturday, an 8th grade girl in Mississippi died due to complications from COVID. Every day, I receive emails from parents across Illinois wondering if it's safe to send their child with asthma or diabetes or another condition to school. The answer is yes, because and only because Illinois has the safety measures in place to protect our students, educators, and the community around them. Masking works. It's simple, easy, and effective. And it works best when everyone in the school building wears a mask. That's the consensus of the CDC and of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And that's why masks are required to be worn indoors by everyone in all Illinois schools. I am taking this requirement extremely seriously because every single student in Illinois deserves a safe in-person education this fall. I know this is a difficult time to be a leader, and I deeply appreciate the cooperation and the leadership of all the superintendents and principals across our state. I'm excited to be back in person. Having fully in-person learning across the state has to be a cause for celebration. And I wish all of our students, especially our educators and families, an awesome start to the new school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen. With that, we're going to move to item 2 of our agenda, which is public participation. Typically, based on the public participation policy of the State Board of Education approved by this board, we have a process that limits each individual to 3 minutes for a total time of 30 minutes at the outset of our board meetings. And then if after that 30-minute period there are remaining individuals wishing to participate, we have another session later on in the meeting. Given that we have so many people who have signed up, and I know people have come from different parts of the state in order to do that, our goal is to try to power through and have everybody who has signed up in accordance with our policy be able to speak at the beginning of the meeting, and we'll go for however long that takes. We will still enforce, we have to, the 3-minute requirement. We ask anybody who is able to provide their public comments in less than 3 minutes to do that as a courtesy to everybody else who's looking to wait to speak, as well as to our being able to continue to execute on the action items that we have today, but you do have those 3 minutes. We also, as I said, our policy states that we need to sign up 30 minutes before. We've had that policy in place as a board for years. I know that there has been some question as to whether or not that 30-minute requirement is enforceable. So without waiving the fact that it is, we are going to continue to keep our sign-in sheet available so that if anybody does express an interest to sign up during the public participation process, we will do all we can to accommodate that. So as a matter of our protocol, we always want to defer to our elected officials to begin our public participation. I think we have at least 2, but I'm going to be looking through this to make sure that I'm capturing everybody, including regional superintendents. So I will start by asking Senator Bailey, if you're here, to come to the table and offer your participation first.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, as an elected local school board member for 17 years, I understand when times like this happen and things are a little tense, so I do want to thank you for serving on this board. I bring to you here 45,000 signatures from parents across the state that I intend to deliver to the governor's office today that are speaking up and speaking out and asking for that their children go to school with the option of wearing a mask. I'm here today because people of Illinois deserve honesty and transparency, and they don't seem to be getting it, in my opinion, out of the Pritzker administration. Governor Pritzker is once again acting like a tyrant and trying to take power from the people. As a board of unrelated bureaucrats appointed by this governor, please tell the people of Illinois which law gives you the authority to take power away from the locally elected school board and, more importantly, the local people and communities that they represent. I sent a letter here addressed June 12th, and I sent another letter June 25th, and another letter dated August 12th, and I'm still waiting for an answer to that question. This spring, HB 2789 failed to pass the Senate. If the bill would have passed, it would have given the governor and the Illinois State Board of Education the authority to issue a mask mandate. It is clear that not even the Democrats believe that Governor Pritzker has the authority to enforce these unilateral mandates. Let me be clear on a few things. The governor lacks the authority to make or enforce this mandate. Please tell the people, what authority did the governor cite in his executive order? There is no unilateral authority granted in the Illinois Constitution. The Illinois Emergency Management Agency contains no enforcement mechanisms. Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act does not give the governor authority to create new regulations. And all the enforcement of rulemaking power in connection to the Illinois Emergency Management Act is 100% subject to current established statutory powers that are already in place. So if the Act itself is silent on enforcement and there is no existing law specific to enforcement, then no enforcement mechanism exists. This is why HB 2789 was being pursued in the current General Assembly. This was the vehicle to give rulemaking and enforcement authority to the state. This legislation is still pending. Therefore, there is no authority. The Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act does not give the governor the authority to create new regulations. Therefore, enforcement mechanisms for the governor's executive orders must be found in the Emergency Management Agency Act or existing statutes or regulations. I can tell you they are not there. This debate is not about whether you think masks should be worn.
Thank you.
This debate is about whether or not we will uphold the rule of law.
Senator Bailey, we just need to have you wrap up, please.
Thank you. Got it. It's about whether or not we defend our representative republic and whether we will continue to let one man make every decision without engaging the representatives who were elected by the people and who serve closest to the people. You have an obligation to provide this transparency to the state's parents, students, and teachers whom you seek to control. Please provide that soon. Stop making empty threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think next we have Representative Bullauer.
Thank you to the board. I'm here in my official capacity as a state representative, but also as a concerned parent. Many schools in Illinois are exercising their right to assert their local authority and follow CDC guidance by making masks recommended but not required. Through this process, on multiple occasions, Dr. Ayala has unilaterally sent letters to several schools proclaiming that, pursuant to Title 23, Part 1.20B2A, she, not the board, was placing districts on probation for exhibiting deficiencies that present a health hazard or a danger to students or staff. With one private district, you went as far as to unilaterally revoke recognition. Where do you get this authority? Title 23, Section 120 clearly lays out a process for annual recognition along with input from regional superintendents, the entire ISB board. That process has been thrown into trash. And what we are doing with probation letters, and especially the immediate and unilateral removal of recognition of Timothy Christian School, is a clear violation of state statute that deserves an accounting. Section 120 is clear about the following requirements imposed by law or code in determining recognition status. What requirements imposed by law or code were used to define deficiencies? And Section 180 doesn't even come close. These are facility standards. What was or is the level of involvement of ISB in HB 2789, pending legislation that would clearly give ISB and IDPH the authorities you are trying to assert here? In committee, as this bill was moving through the process, Representative Mussman, the chief sponsor, said the following in part, and I quote, "We had some last-minute interaction with some of our advocates in the governor's office, and we were making it very clear that IDPH and ISB does have some recommended language and we'll be adopting that language when we get to the Senate. And she goes on to say, so adopting this language is acceptable to the parties with the understanding that the bill will be further modified in the Senate. And part of that modification in the Senate was stated the following: the State Board of Education shall adopt rules to revoke recognition pursuant to subsection A for schools or school districts that do not comply with public health requirements established by the Department of Public Health when the governor has declared a disaster due to public health emergency pursuant to Section 7 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act. So, is this ISB's recommended language that was referenced earlier? And if so, why would you be proposing this in legislation if you, as you assert today, already have this authority? It's clear that you don't.
Representative, we'll need you to wrap up.
We need answers. We deserve answers. You need accountability. And this isn't just about masks. This is about our government and the bureaucratic class running wild, circumventing the law, crushing the will of the people, and it needs to stop. We have laws for a reason. Local boards should be free to make the decisions that they know are in the best interest of parents and students they represent without being subjected to the outright fear that you are perpetuating. Fear. Free people are never ruled by fear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Kyla Thompson, Regional Superintendent for Regional Office of Education 11.
Hang on. Thank you. No problem.
Just a reminder for everybody to keep the comments to 3 minutes, please, just for everybody else's sake.
Good morning. How much time do I have here? I'm kidding.
180 seconds.
You got it. Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Kyle Thompson. I'm the Regional Superintendent of Schools for Clark, Coles, Cumberland, Douglas, Edgar, Moultrie, and Shelby County. I want to begin by letting you all know that I am not anti-mask or anti-vax. Today I join a chorus of school officials from all parts of Illinois who ask you to rethink your recently imposed restrictions on our ongoing return to school. I want to focus not on the commonly debated topics of masks, science, and public health, but on an equally important issue that is seemingly lost here: local control and local accountability. For decades now in Springfield, our school leadership across the state has fought one battle after another over state mandates. Our politicians at the state capitol are often well-intentioned when they add to our daily demands over the curriculum we provide, the meals we serve, our dress codes, and much more. However, too often they don't realize the costs that come from these more isolated decisions. Under COVID-19, mandates have become politically polarizing, and our students are suffering as a result of it. We have no voice, no metrics, no targets to aim for. I believe we're still in phase 5. Instead of being able to focus on the safe return to in-person schooling that we are all excited for right now, our local school superintendents and their volunteer school boards are going to war over the mask mandate. They have been pitted against their local communities. Districts are divided after heated public debates with 5-2 and 4-3 votes nightly. No one is happy with the outcome, and these hard feelings will linger and affect our quality of education for years to come. The tension is unbearable. I have one superintendent that wanted to come today, but he is in his district because there are protests this morning. He couldn't leave his district. The beauty of local control in our school system is that it is equally met with strong local accountability. When our schools make decisions about changing courses, hours, sports, or anything else, these decisions are not made from behind a desk hundreds of miles away by those not impacted by the decisions. They are face-to-face with and held accountable by the families they serve. If they land on the wrong side of a decision, without divisive and polarizing outside influences, they are able to carefully work together to move appropriately to resolve it. As you have heard from many of my colleagues recently, each district is best equipped to make these decisions locally to safely and effectively educate their children, and to be held accountable for those decisions. Please do not use this opportunity to double down on the districts that do not agree with the current mandate, as you will only force many to dig in deeper and further distract us from our #1 job, and that is educating our children. Thank you all for your service and the work you do.
I don't think we have any other elected officials signed up, but if we do, and I'm mistaken, please just let me know. Otherwise, we'll have Kirsten go through public participation in the order of sign-up. And so I'll turn it to her unless anybody indicates otherwise.
I'm an elected official. I'm a board member.
Yeah, please. I appreciate that. Sure.
Hello, my name is Michelle Lee. I am here as a concerned parent, first and foremost. I understand your job, although you do get paid, so it's not the same as the school board.
We don't, by the way.
Thank you. We were discussing that, so that's good to know. So I understand that 70, 80 people coming to speak is making your day a lot longer. But you said you're following the science. I would wonder what science that is, because the CDC is currently under investigation for war crimes against humanity. From a Dr. Fulmich, a German doctor. He has a team of 1,000 lawyers and over 10,000 doctors. If anybody knows about war crimes against humanity, I would think it would be the Germans, okay? There is also a Dr. Robert E. Martin, who is the founder of MCAM International, and he basically, when there was only copyrights, and then we went to patents for intellectual property, he founded a company that has followed all government patents. The CDC, Dr. Fauci particularly, patented COVID in 2008. So please, the Fauci dossier is a 205-page document from Dr. Robert E. Martin. Please do your research if you think that you're following the science. There's been studies from German doctors that show that these masks have antibiotic-resistant bacteria after the 6 hours that the kids are wearing them. There's also been a study done that shows that after 3 minutes, there's over 6 times the amount of carbon dioxide. And the smaller the child, maybe because their breaths are shorter, the worse it is. So when you say that you're following the science, I would also like to just get you to think about this. For anyone who has seizures, a lack of oxygen could cause them to have another seizure. For any child who has autism, for any child who is deaf, for any child who has sensory disorders, you are discriminating against them by not giving them the option. And then their parents are told to go and homeschool your child or to put them in private school if they can't wear a mask. That is ridiculous. These parents with the children with disabilities are the ones that are the most financially spread thin. This is not okay. We really do need a mask option, okay? Because there are certain medical conditions, or at least a list of medical conditions where these children can be optional, because it is unhealthy for some people. With any medical condition, with any medicine, it's good for some and it's not good for others. And on the side of the box it says that they're not effective against coronavirus. So I would just please beg you to think about all of these children and parents with disabilities that cannot wear masks.
Thank you.
And did you say, where are you an elected board member from?
I'm not allowed to say. I get in trouble for saying where I'm elected at. I literally have been told that I am not allowed to say where I'm elected from. So if you'd like to meet me off camera and ask me that question, I can tell you in person. I'm not allowed to say it on camera.
The next speaker is Brenna O'Brien. Brenna is speaking on the topic of remote learning, and she's representing herself. Brenna, are you with us? I'll work on that. I'm going to move on to the next person on my list, Lee Mabry. Lee Mabry is speaking to us regarding the remote learning option. We'll check everywhere. Bob Bardwell. Bob Bardwell is speaking to us regarding local control. He is affiliated with Eureka CUSD 140.
Thank you for taking the time to hear our collective voices this morning. My name is Bob Bardwell. I come representing the Superintendents of Woodford County, which is located in southern Illinois, and also the Heart of Illinois Conference. We have 10 school districts in our county, which include a special education cooperative. As board members, I know you are in a tough position when trying to meet the needs of Illinois families in a very diverse state. My board has a good understanding of how difficult the job of a board member can be, as they just held a meeting with over 300 concerned parents who are upset about the lack of local control in educating our children. I want to take the time I have this morning to speak to you about the benefits of local control. Local control allowed 10 school districts in Woodford County to independently meet the needs of our students and community last year. Some of our schools started on full remote, some started in hybrid situation, and some of us, like myself, our district, with full-day in-person learning. Local control allowed 10 school districts to independently make decisions that best met the needs of their students. Local control allowed us to make health decisions based on real-time data. Even in our county, the effects of COVID-19 were diverse. There were times when the east side of our county were impacted to a greater extent than the west side, and vice versa. Local control allowed us to adapt to those situations at hand with the least amount of impact on our students' learning. Local control allowed us to build up trust among our parents who had varying opinions about how we should navigate COVID-19 in their children's education. They understood and saw how we would rapidly respond to increased cases or quarantines. They saw how we set up mitigations in our schools to keep their children safe. They saw how we reduced the medications in certain situations as numbers decreased to give them hope. Local control gives parents a voice in their children's education. But I want to be clear, this is not about masks. The mask mandate is just a symptom of the overarching problem of top-down leadership and government overreach. And quite frankly, the people making these decisions have no idea how schools are run, how students learn, and how educators teach. And by and large, we have ignored the health consequences our approach to this pandemic has caused. If we had more local control, we could have avoided some of the many health consequences this single-minded approach has caused. The mission statement of ISB says this: our mission is to provide each and every child with safe and healthy learning conditions, great educators, and equitable opportunities by practicing data-informed stewardship of resources and policy development, all done in partnership with educators, families, and stakeholders. I referenced data-informed policy development. I asked you, what data are you using to support the current mitigations mandated in Woodford County or any other county in the state? No one from your organization or the governor's office can answer that question. Partnership requires both sides being at the table and being heard. Local school districts and communities haven't even been invited to the table. We ask that you live up to your mission by truly partnering with us. This cannot be done with a one-size-fits-all approach. Parents feel they have no voice. School districts feel they have no voice. We are asking you to give us that voice. This is more than just about masking. It is about the constant unfunded mandates in curriculum, political and social justice initiatives, health, life, and safety, and I could go on and on. We ask that ISD fight for the diverse needs of our school districts in Illinois. No one cares more about the health and well-being of students than the local school districts that serve them. Local control is the only way to truly meet the needs of our students. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Ruby Johnson. Ruby is speaking to us regarding local control and unmasking, and she is not affiliated with an organization.
Hi, my name is Ruby Johnson, and I'm the mother of 7 from New Lenox, Illinois. In 2006, we sent our first child to school, and we've trusted our amazing school district to nurture and educate our children one after another for the last 15 years. Last year would have been the first time all of our children would be in school for the whole day at once. Instead, I chose to homeschool. Not because I feared COVID, instead because I wanted my children to have the most normal, consistent year possible and not be masked up. 2 Timothy says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. Whether or not you're a believer, every day our students put their hands over their hearts and pledge allegiance to one nation under God, which is allegedly indivisible, where we protect liberty and justice for all. What has happened to our sound mind, to our power, to our liberty? I'm so tired of hearing how resilient our kids are. Resilience is something you choose. Our kids did not choose to be masked all day, unable to see their friends or teachers smile at them, to have to COVID test to stay in school, to be burdened with the idea that they carry an invisible disease that they could make their friends sick with. We know the risk to our children is low. It is not their responsibility to protect the adults in their lives. It's not their burden to carry. Our elementary and high school districts both had well thought out reopening plans that gave parents a choice in regards to masking. Who better to develop a plan for the students being served than the people who know them best? There is not one of you sitting here who personally know our children or our town, our teachers, or our schools. Yet you send letters threatening to pull funding, recognition, or sports if they won't mask our kids all day, every day. I think the real question is, where exactly does that authority you speak of come from if House Bill 2789, which sought to give you that power, was never passed by the legislature? If you already had the power, wouldn't trying so hard to pass that bill be redundant? When did you essentially turn into the lunchroom bully who has the power to pull recognition status from schools for perceived noncompliance without warning or due process? In the process, making an example of the most vocal and visible schools to undoubtedly send a message to make the other schools bow down. It's just a mask, right? It's just a slippery slope, that's what it is. We all know we're up against a very contagious virus. We were told that it was never about eliminating the virus, but about making sure we didn't overwhelm the healthcare system. 17 months later, why are we still masking our lowest risk population and being spoon-fed fear? What's the end game? Our kids, and all of us, you included, have spent the summer gathering indoors and out, at festivals and concerts, eating in restaurants, traveling the country. The masks are pure theater at this point. If we continue to allow people so removed from our community to make the decisions that directly impact our children and our lives, we should be very worried about what our future looks like.
Thank you.
So I'm before you as a resident, as a parent, and as an advocate for every child in my district in this state who needs a voice, to ask that you allow us to take back our local control. I got up at 4 a.m. while my 7 children were sleeping and drove 3 hours just to be here this morning. And I'll be honest, it's easy to become discouraged and think, what's the point in fighting? But the only answer I can come up with is that we can't afford not to. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruby. Next, Kirsten.
For transparency, Lee Mabry submitted written comment. I know I had called her name earlier. Next speaker is Miguel Batista. Miguel comes to us on the topic of CPS, and the organization is Galileo. Miguel? I'll look into that. Sherry Smith. Sherry Smith is speaking to us on the topic of back to school, executive order, 60-day probationary period from Forest Valley Community Unit School District number 221.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Smith, and I'm the superintendent at Forestville Valley School District 221, which is located in the Northwest region. Today is our first day of school, and while I would prefer to be walking the halls with my students, I believe it's important that I appear before you today. Last school year, Forestville Valley operated in person every single day. Yes, every single day. And we stayed open because we listened to our health departments. We worked towards a common goal for in-person instruction, and we followed ISB's back-to-school plan in fine detail. I'm here today because I have significant concerns when districts make a conscious decision to not follow the executive order. I reviewed the letter sent on August 11th, which provided clarity on legal funding and athletic ramifications if a school district would not be in compliance. I am aware we have 29 school districts today that have been placed on probationary status based on their decision to not follow the mask mandate. However, not once in any of this information does it state that districts will have a probation period of 60 days to complete a corrective action plan. This means for 60 days, local school boards can decide to defy the executive order with 0 ramifications. And I ask you, if the executive order has the force of law, why are 60 days necessary to comply? Why do I care about other school districts? Generally speaking, I don't have time to do that. However, without an immediate consequence and accountability, superintendents and local school boards are left to once again navigate impossible scenarios. Probationary status does not limit a school's ability to participate in IHSA or IDSA events. That means locally, we're left to determine if our students are placed in undue risk by participating with non-compliant districts. Second, once local school boards learn probation does not equal immediate lack of funds or athletic opportunities, but instead a 60-day timeline to reintroduce universal masking, many will opt to take this route. I beg you not to burden your superintendents with another new hurdle to jump. Finally, please know I am proud to be a superintendent. I am proud because the majority of my colleagues have done everything possible to keep our kids in school. The strength of my colleagues come from a deep-seated belief in public education, in-person instruction, and a desire to teach our students the skills of citizenship, which include respecting authority when mandates are given. Please help us stand strong and support those who are standing in line with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent, for the thoughtful comments and for your service.
Our next speaker is Sean Gurley. Sean Gurley is speaking to us regarding the mask mandate, and his organization is Parent Support.
Hello. I would like to thank you for your commitment to our children and the opportunity to stand before you today and be heard. We have come to stand together in our beliefs. We are here to ask that you please stop threatening our local school districts and leave the decision-making process to those that we elected in our own communities, the ones that know what is right for the environments in which we live. All summer long, our kids have played together, have been to the local department stores and grocery stores, have attended baseball games, concerts, amusement parks, and theater, all mask-free. The thought that these conditions will miraculously change when our kids sit down and pick up a pencil is simply absurd. I do not wish to stand here and recycle the same verbiage that has been flung around day in and day out, but in the end, facts matter. It is a fact that Dr. Fauci addressed this entire nation at the beginning of this pandemic and said that masks are not effective at preventing this transmission of this virus. It's also a fact that stamped on every box of drugstore masks is a statement in all caps that says this product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses or contaminants. It is also important to remind everyone that when it comes to science, decisions are based on statistics and data, and they cite sources from which that data was derived. Why is it that nobody has been able to provide this information on effectiveness of masks? It's because it does not exist. I'm not talking about newspaper articles quoting Dr. Insert Name here that simply says masks work, or a school of higher learning that releases a statement that says they studied the effectiveness in preventing transmission, but later admits that the data was only compiled from campuses that already had mask mandates in place and no oppositional data from campuses without. I'm talking about real statistics that state a mask will limit the travel of a coronavirus molecule by X number of inches or feet when the mask is made of material Y or Z. This data simply does not exist. Last year, my child really struggled. We received weekly emails and phone calls telling us how my son was constantly not properly wearing his mask and fiddling with it. It was a disruption to him and a disruption to his classmates. To top things off, every day he came home with headaches and increased anxiety. This is just simply no longer acceptable. Today was the first day of school in the small town of Highland. I sent my son to school without a mask in defiance of the mitigations handed down by a group that lacks the authority to do so. I'm sure as I'm standing here before you, his mother already had to go pick him up from the office. That's okay, because tomorrow and Friday we will do the same. So now we reasonably ask that you please stop with the intimidation and threats. Stop bullying our local officials that work for us by telling them that you will put them on probation and remove their recognition status, because the legislative branch has not given you the authority and power to carry out these baseless tirades. We the people are angry, we the people are frustrated, and we the people are tired of the abuse. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Rosemary Vega. Rosemary is speaking to us regarding remote learning options on the behalf of Raise Your Hand. Rosemary? I'll work on that. The next speaker on our list is Ramiro Gamusio. I spoke with him by phone this morning. He is unable to join us in person. So the next person I have on my list is Seth Miller. Seth Miller is speaking to us on issues on school opening in Vermilion County. His organization is Westfield CUSD number 2. Thank you.
I've got a letter. I don't intend to read from it verbatim. You can pass it out, though.
I'll wait
and you
till
can
you
start
start.
my clock.
Absolutely.
My name is Seth Miller. I'm the superintendent at Westfield School District. I've got some fellow superintendents from Vermilion County with me downstairs watching in closed caption. And today I just want to talk a little bit about climate change, as off topic as that may sound. But the climate right now in our educational arena, even in this room, the tension is so palpable. The anxiety, the fear, the frustration, the anger. I sensed it all last week during registration. Our teachers will sense that tomorrow. And as a superintendent, I just want to express, the hundreds that have come to our local meetings, the issues that we're seeing, and kind of highlight two climate-related issues that may be related to all this or may not. But the first, I think, is the unspoken epidemic and crisis that should be a priority for us as public educators, and that is getting our kids back into school. Right now in our county, our enrollment last year as a county was down 765 students. That's double the size of two of our high schools, the amount of people not enrolling their children. Yesterday, Danville 118, the largest district in our school, in our county, they posted in the local newspaper their registration numbers, which are 20% below what they were 2 years ago. This has to be of primary concern. What can we do to create a climate that people want to send their children back into public education? Because no mass mitigation, if we can't get the kids in front of us, it's going to be impossible or very hard to serve them well. As much as it seems like we've seen reduced student enrollment, along with that, there has never been a harder time to attract people to our profession. Getting qualified teachers, bus drivers, people that want to support kids in our buildings is excruciating. My district, other districts are putting people in with long-term, short-term provisionals, doing the best we can, and the result is we have people with little to no experience teaching these kids. And it's tough. And I don't know how much of that it has to do with this climate, but I know these are real issues. I don't envy your jobs. I empathize with your jobs. There's not an easy answer. And what I want to convey is I do trust what we've heard locally. There's not an easy answer that's going to solve teacher shortage and kids in the building, but I trust locally our ability to try to meet these needs. I appreciate the state police presence here today, so it makes me feel like it's not going to get too crazy. But on Monday when our kids come, we won't have the state police in front of that first grade teacher trying to deal with the student that may come without a mask. We have a first-year assistant principal trying to enforce a community that's trying to make sense of these things. And agree or don't agree with everything, it's just our ability to enforce it and serve our kids. I appreciate your time. I respectfully ask you to consider as much local control when appropriate, and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Come down and join us today.
Our next speaker is Nina S. Nina is speaking to us regarding options for remote learning. Nina? Our next speaker is Krishna Rao. Krishna is speaking on the topic of remote learning. Stephanie Helmuth. Stephanie is speaking on masks compromising education, and she's representing herself as a parent.
I came this morning with a prepared speech, but I wanted to start with the fact that it was already stated before we even started that decisions have been made and there's lots of consideration already being left off the table. So I'm going to read what I have to say, but I hope that you actually open your ears and listen to what's being said in this room today, unlike most of the parents who are not being heard by their school boards because they're being forced on this side. My name is Stephanie Helmuth, and my husband and I have 4 children attending public school this year, one who is opting out for a second year of college due to anxiety and masking. All children in the United States of America in this state of Illinois have the right to a free, equal educational opportunity, no matter their race, ethnic background, religion, sex, or disability. I believe, however, that our children are having that very right violated by this mask mandate and your failure as educational leaders to lead them. For a year, families have sat on the sidelines and worked with the schools to keep people safe and just make it through. However, this year, I will not sit any longer and allow my child's education or any others to be impacted or them to just make it through again. Any child who has any sort of speech delay or hearing impairment is being denied the right to an equal education. How many people say, "I can't hear you," simply because you're not able to see the mouth of the person speaking to you? We all rely on this type of visual to hear, and our kids rely on this type of visual when they're learning to speak. How can these children learn to make proper sounds or mouth movements as their speech develops when they cannot see anyone's faces for them to learn? The mandate says a note can be obtained to unmask a child based on different disabilities. However, I went to get that note for my daughter, and doctors are denying these notes for the fear that they're losing their jobs and the threats that they're receiving. So my daughter has a disability and has the right to a fair education and is not able to receive that education. Not to mention, unmasking a child that needs to see faces of other people does no good by itself if there's no mouth to see to learn from. Speech is the articulation and formation of words and sounds, that which is done by encouraging imitation of sounds and movements for further development. With a mask on, how do we do this? Each year, speech is delayed from pre-K through 5 years of age. You increase difficulties with reading, attention span, social settings, writing skills, spelling, and more. The severity of these delays is based on the impairment of their functions to learn, which is exactly what these masks are continuing to do to our children for another school year. What about any child that already has any sort of social anxiety or emotional disconnections? Emotions are often read from our facial expressions. How can you see your teacher's expressions, feelings on your behavior if over half their face is covered with a mask? We go from silently correcting our students with a look that we're all familiar with to now verbally having to reprimand them in front of their peers. We give up small smiles of reassurance for job well done to students getting little to nothing because they no longer are able to see their teachers' faces. They no longer have the emotional resource to connect and learn from. They no longer have that connection with their peers either. The younger kids are missing out on developing these very vital and important emotional and social cues, while our older students are suffering a greater level of anxiety and depression. What about facial recognition? My kindergartner doesn't even know who her teacher was last year. Our district's back-to-school plan originally released gave every student an option for getting back to school and having an equal and safe opportunity at education. It complied with the CDC and IDPH guidelines that ISB stated they would follow just on August 2nd, days before the governor changed with the mandate.
We're going to need you to wrap up, please.
The mandate, however, does not give any option for our local boards, the ones we all elected to look after our children, the ones who know the local facts, and the ones who know they have every legal right to make the decisions but are being pitted against their communities. Today, I'm putting on record with you that I believe the rights of our children are being violated, and I'm taking a stand not only for my children, but the children of our district and state. Regardless of any child being entitled, any child is entitled to a free and equal education. Parents having to pay for private speech.
I'm really sorry, you have to.
I have 2 sentences left. Parents having to pay for private speech because our students' needs are not being met in their school system is not free. Families providing masks for children to come to school is absolutely not free. I encourage you to step back and restore the power to local school boards, and I demand that you stop holding our children and their educations, diplomas, and sports hostage.
Our next speaker is Parker Amanda. Parker is speaking regarding the remote option for Illinois school. Parker? Lauren Sawatsky. I apologize if I misspoke.
No, that was right.
Lauren is speaking to us regarding unmasking.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Lauren Sawatsky. I'm a wife and mother of 4. My friend Ruby and I drove down 175 miles this morning for this meeting because I cannot sit quiet about this mandating masking of our children and the local control being taken away. Last fall, we took our 4 children out of school to homeschool in order to give them some stability and consistency with everything up in the air with going on with remote learning, and we just weren't going to have any of it. So we sat back, we watched our district, 157C out of Frankfurt, come up with a plan, and that plan involved full-time in-person learning starting October 5th last year. I watched for a month to see how that went, and our 2 oldest who are in middle school decided to go back. I felt good about sending them back. Not that they were going to be wearing a mask, but that our district had come up with a plan, and that plan worked. And our school stayed in, even between Thanksgiving and Christmas, when all the other schools shut down, our school stayed open. We did close for remote learning those 2 weeks after Christmas break. Other than that, our school remained open because they had that control to make the decisions of our district. Our district also came up with a plan this fall that include mask optional, regardless of vaccination status, depending on the numbers. While that felt like some sort of a win, it was only days after that that was taken away. My husband and I make all the decisions regarding our children's health. Their health is the #1 priority, and that includes their mental health. The effects of the lockdown, the masking, social distancing, and making them feel like they are walking around contagious and ready to infect everyone around them has only begun. Masking and quarantining of healthy children is unacceptable. As a parent, it's difficult at any time. Add in all of these extra things, the sports being taken away, clubs, dance, all of this is making it very difficult. The past year and a half, I keep repeating myself from the Bible, Esther chapter 4, verse 14, perhaps you were made for such a time as this, and that God chose me to be their mother for such a time as this. The inconsistency are what makes this all so frustrating, why some things can happen, other can't, while family and friends in other states can go ahead and enjoy their freedoms and go to school. All we want is the choice. The choice is what to do as we parents feel is best for our children. This year, all 4 of my children are going back to school. And not because I feel great about it, but because they want to be with their friends. I wish I could have the excitement that my 2nd grader has right now to start school next week, but I don't. And it's really difficult because no matter what decision I make, I as a mother feel like I'm making the wrong one. All we want is the choice. Give our districts that choice to go with that plan that they made, that they worked so hard all summer and then was taken away. That's all we want. Thank you.
Our next speaker is P.S. Bhattacharjee. P.S. is speaking regarding the virtual options for schools. Our next speaker is Christopher Lombardi. Christopher is speaking to us regarding the mask mandate.
My name is Christopher Lombardi, and I'm a 14-year-old freshman at Allen Beach Shepherd High School, District 218. Now, as a student, I believe that wearing a mask as a mandatory mandation is pointless. According to the HealthyAmerican.org, healthy people shouldn't wear masks for risk of infection of concealed germs and carbon dioxide toxicity. It also affects a young child's ability to recognize familiar facial features and emotions. For all the parents who say they would like to reduce their child's screen time for social reasons, what do you think a mask does? They, as in the kids who are always on technology, can't look people in the eyes when talking. And you can't see a peer's whole face with a mask. It's not easy recognizing one of 2,000 kids in high school by backpack or hair instead of facial features. Now I know every good argument addresses both sides, so I also have a site that is for the mask mandation. It is ucsf.edu. According to the site, specialist Peter Chin Hong, MD, says that if 95% of people wear masks everywhere, the deaths will be down to 33,000 by October 1st, 2021. In the U.S., as of yesterday at 8:35 p.m., there were 332,636,285 people. 33,000 is exactly 0.0099207457178,041% of Americans. The world population at the time that I checked was 7,783,353,103, and rapidly increasing. 33,000 of that is even less, 0.0042398179246,526%. Now I know that the more people that are born, the higher the population is going to grow. And the higher the population grows, the smaller that percentage is going to get. I don't think that a mask mandation for high schools or anywhere is really necessary for 0.009% of deaths. And I know every death is a tragedy, I'm not saying it isn't, but that's less than 1% of the world population. And now I know I'm not the only one, but I have very bad allergies, and it makes the allergies itself make it already hard for me to breathe, amongst other things. And with these masks that I'm putting on, also blocking off more oxygen intake, is not making it easier on me. We've tried many different medications, many different things to try to see what I'm allergic to, whatever it is, but these are year-round, and I've fainted, I have fallen out of my chair in class, and it's making it hard to stay in school. And then at that point in time, I have to choose either my mental health or my physical health. My mental health being being social and around other people, but I'm fainting, getting dizzy, and feeling sick because of these masks and allergies. Or my physical health, where I keep on fainting and getting dizzy, but I get to stay around other peers to expand my social variety. And I know I'm not the only one with this problem. Studies are also starting to show that you can get COVID from the eyes because they have an enzyme called TMPRSS2, which helps COVID into your body. I don't think that it is right that we have to wear these masks as a mandatory thing in school every day when there are constant problems more than it's helping. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Brent Curry. Brent is coming to speak with us regarding local control.
Hello, and thank you for your time. My name is Brent Curry, and I serve on a school board within my community, and I was elected by that community to do what's best for them. On Monday night, we had a meeting to discuss what everybody has been discussing here, and while I understand that you're not going to discuss it today, this group wants to, and I'm glad that you're listening to them wholeheartedly. In full transparency, I made a decision to follow the governor's mandate. It was not a decision I came to lightly, and it came with all the fact-seeking I have talked to my state representative, other state representatives. I've talked to doctors, I've talked to lawyers, I've had repeated conversations with our insurance agencies. I was armed with the facts that I found. But I don't disagree with anybody in this room. Everybody in this room has brought forward such good points that I personally stand by. And while I did not vote with the majority I feel my district is at, I stand with them because I believe they are correct. The fact of the matter is, I believe that you are holding me hostage. As a school board member, you have issued letters to other schools that have defied this body's, mandate, requirement, I don't know what you want to call it. Typically, you've always recommended in the past. So I don't know if that's a recommendation or not, but you're holding me hostage. I don't believe as you all believe. I believe that parents have a choice. I am a parent myself, and I have 2 kids in the district that I serve. While I don't disagree, maybe mass help, maybe they don't, but I believe that it is my right to make that call. I want to thank Kyle back here. I know he has spoke, he has put stuff out, and he is supporting our district as he is in the regional office of the district that I serve. I want to thank him for that. I want to thank the state representatives also that stood up And I also would like to say to my district that I am sorry for the pain that I have caused them. But at the same time, I was armed with the facts. I beg you, as they begged me, to really think about your decisions that you're making here on this board. They do matter. We are all watching, and we are all waiting for you to give what I believe the law says that we should have local control. Please give it back to us. Make it easier on our administrators, who you have tasked them with an impossible duty. I have tasked them with an impossible duty. And as soon as I believe that it is safe to do so, I will relieve them of that burden. Thank you.
I have Brendan Lombardi. Brendan is speaking to us regarding against the mask mandate.
Hello. Brendan Lombardi, thank you for your time. I have 3 children going to school right now. One of them will not be able to start because he has severe allergies and they won't let him go to school, and the doctors will not issue him a shield, that he can wear a shield. They won't give him the script so he can wear a shield. He gets horrible allergies. These masks cost $35 a box right now. Who's paying for that? I gotta pay for that. It's a lot of money every day. And with the allergies, they gotta change their mask if you follow the science every time they cough. So I gotta go through 50 masks a day per kid if we're gonna follow the science. If you follow the science, you walk into a restaurant, you could sit down and take your mask off. They're sitting in a classroom. Why can't they take their mask off if you follow the science? This is ridiculous. You're putting burdens on families that don't need them. You're kicking kids out of school because they can't wear masks. What kind of people are you? Where the hell are your morals? This is getting ridiculous. You want to talk about money? We can pull our kids out of school. We don't have to sign that piece of paper to homeschool them, and your districts get no money for our kids. This is getting ridiculous. You don't think we're going to file a class action lawsuit against you? There's thousands. The senator had 45,000 signatures, and that's just the people that could sign, that had time to, that knew about it. There's well over 100,000 parents. You don't think we can come up with the money for a class action lawsuit? Because you guys want to bully people? That's all you're doing is bullying. Masks don't work. Children don't even get COVID like they say. 400 kids died in the last 18 months. That percentage is so low they could still say 100% of kids survived it. That's how low that percentage is. You're forcing kids with disabilities to wear masks. That's child abuse under the Illinois Code. You have a right to help our children, not abuse them. And all you're doing is abusing the children in this state. Pritzker signing these stupid mandates, yet his family lives in Florida where there are none. How stupid is that? I mean, when we're done here, are we going to all stand up and say, "Hail Pritzker"? Are we living in Nazi Germany right now? Because that's what it feels like. Plexiglass. You put a piece of plexiglass up in a gas station and you don't have to wear a mask behind the counter. So why can't we put plexiglass up on their tables? What is it, 50 cents to get one? I'll buy them, I'll put them in myself. Because plexiglass stops COVID. This is ridiculous. COVID is so smart, it knows what time you're going to be out at. It knows that you go to a Home Depot instead of a mom and pop shop. This is getting ridiculous. You people should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Srini Bapana. Srini was going to speak regarding remote learning for elementary school aged kids. Our next speaker is Kathleen Ramsey.
Kathleen, take a deep breath. I'm serious.
Kathleen Ramsey is coming to us as a parent to speak regarding masks.
Everybody breathe
lightly. Take a deep breath. And I just want to say that I truly have trust in the fact that I am looking at heroes right now. All of you have the chance and the opportunity to show that you are a hero. I am asking to speak to your soul, not your ego. Because 0.05%, so 0.05%, that is the CDC numbers of how many you have a chance of dying from COVID. You're going to get in your car tonight, you have a higher chance of dying. That is a fact. I'm happy to send you the numbers of where I got that from. So now I'm going to tell you a little story on my 3 minutes. There was a movie that I watched when I was a little girl. It was called The Wizard of Oz. Very spiritual movie. And in The Wizard of Oz, you had somebody that wanted courage. And I'm asking each one of you to have the courage to fight for our freedom and to have the heart. To go into your heart and breathe, because it's the heart-mind connection that makes a difference in this world. And then to have the mind to ask the questions of the Grand Wizard of Oz. Isn't that who's running the world right now? The Grand Wizard? What happened in that movie? Oh, a little dog. I'm asking each of you to be Toto, the hero, Toto, who pulls back the veil. Because I've got to tell you, it's just an illusion. COVID is an illusion. It's an illusion. Because 0.05% chance. That is the fact. And those hospitals, what you're seeing on TV, it's a Hollywood production. What is news? It's an entertainment. Look it up. Who owns them? What do they? I have people that were friends that were working for the news. They left because they said, it's an entertainment. We are told to tell you lies. We're selling you a story. They're selling you a story. Please be the hero. Please be our hero. Our kids don't need masks, but it's more than that. This is about our freedom. This is about your freedom. This is about every single person in this room and in this world. It's freedom. And I'm asking you to be the hero to my child and to me and to your state. You have the ability to do that. Don't worry about the funding. It will come because God will make sure it does. Every parent in here will back that, and every parent that knows this. I know that it's fear. Fear is an illusion. It's the grand old wizard of illusion. Obey me, obey me, obey me. Until you pull back the veil. So pull back the veil. Ask the questions. Ask the questions. The placebo effect. The placebo is a test group that you have when you do a vaccine. I'm in medical. I work in pharma, okay? The placebo group, this is a fact. What they did is they took the test of it, and then the test group that had the placebo, they kindly offered them to take the vaccine. They took away the placebo effect. 0.5% chance of dying. You have a higher percent chance of dying in your car tonight. So be fearless. I'm asking you to be fearless. Please, for the love of God and for the love of your country and for the justice and liberty of all, please be the hero. Because I see each of you having that potential. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Leona Savanon. Leona is speaking to us regarding the COVID-19 Delta variant. Leona? Our next speaker is Kurt Nettles. Kurt Nettles is speaking to us on the topic of ISB as a concerned parent.
That's not actually accurate. I am Kurt Nettles. I'm the superintendent for Clinton CUSD 15. Appreciate everybody's attention today to those that have spoken before me. We're located halfway between Bloomington and Decatur. We're a unit district of 1,800 students and approximately 150 teachers. We were very fortunate to be in school 5 days per week last year, with the exception of 2 weeks that we did shut down. And I'm extremely proud of our district students, staff, and parents for their hard work last year. And like others, we've spent the summer enjoying Phase 5. Many believed we might finally get a more normal school year in 21-22. We do realize that COVID numbers are present and in some places rising. Back in July, we passed a plan to open school that was similar to last year's plan in many ways. The difference was going to be that we would watch levels and we would assign mitigation practices accordingly. This work would have been done in concert with the health experts in our community and county, most notably our county health department. On August the 4th, the executive order changed that, and all school districts faced a choice. Many in our community asked us to stick with our mask optional plan, even in the face of the executive order. When we informed them that we could not do that under the penalties or exposure that would occur, we faced a backlash. I'm not saying our county is COVID-free, it's not. We would just like to be able to make some decisions to lessen restrictions or intensify them based upon our local factors. Currently, the lack of local control has pitted neighbors and friends against each other. Our board meeting last night was well attended. Our public participation segment lasted over an hour. Granted, I understand that people need to act like adults and we need to work together. But I don't appreciate being called a coward. I don't appreciate my board members being called cowards. Our message to the community is to follow the executive order, but continue to advocate to you to help us regain local control. The state is vast, and there will certainly be discrepancies in the number of cases, so we are hoping not to have a one-size plan for the entire state. On August 12th, I received an email from ISBE telling me of a complaint lodged against us for going with a mask optional policy. And I had 24 hours to respond to the email stating what our intentions were. I responded within 24 hours with the answer and attached a letter that I had sent out to our community explaining the what and the why. I then asked for a response from ISBE within 24 hours that my answer was received. I still have not gotten a response. Was my answer received? I need to know that for clarification. So Dr. Ayala, Clinton School District, please seriously consider allowing us to use good, sound local metrics to make our decisions. Thank you.
My apologies for misspeaking. My next speaker is Ryan Jugan. Ryan is speaking to us as a parent regarding masks.
Great job, everybody. You're doing fantastic. Hi, I'm an elementary teacher. Can I speak to Dr. Carmen and just about your newsletter?
We have 3 minutes to speak about whatever you'd like.
Well, I got a newsletter yesterday my principal sent me that said the science is clear and the data, that's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. So if you look at gold standard studies, we look at random control trials. And the studies that are offered by the CDC are observational studies. So if you look at the 16 random control trials, we know that masks don't work. We certainly have no studies to support putting a kid in a mask for 5.5 hours. Again, carbon dioxide. I missed all the other presentations before this, but I'm sure some of these individuals are covering these things. Masks simply do not work to stop a virus. If you want to eliminate all the variables in good science, social distancing, sanitation, all of these things, and then actually look at masks, because this mask right here is 44% more likely to cause infection. Right? This is a cloth mask. So I should not be wearing this, and certainly not for 5.5 hours a day. You want to tell kids exactly what they want to wear. The board meeting I spoke at the other night, I'm simply asking now for maybe just give 15 minutes, of a mask break throughout maybe the morning for these kids. You should be smiling at individuals. Okay? I don't understand when, and you people, we've been divided. Anti-vaccine, anti-mask, Trump voter. We've been masterfully divided so no one will listen to each other. I don't care about politics. You can't have 40 states that have mask optional, and then just the Democrat states are saying, no, we're going to go mask. That's politics. That's political science. I can point to, I fought for my 2 children with autism for the last 10 years. We've known, in fact, that was one of the original 18,000 slips that I signed of mother bears fighting for the kids originally that should have kept local control anyway.
I still don't understand how anyone has control over that. I don't understand how you can violate an emergency use authorization. This falls under a medical device. That's what I sent my attorney letter to the district saying, look, I have the right over my own body. I'm not going to set my kid on fire to protect your kid. That's not how this works, right? Same thing with the vaccine. Since 1947, human rights have been in place to protect that. So you can't, this is an experiment, right? I don't understand why we can't have grown-up conversations.
30 seconds, sir.
And my fight has been with vaccines. And of course, anytime a doctor speaks out on that, they're diminished and disqualified and everything. They can't have a grown-up conversation. And that's what they're doing right now. This clay is old. 80,000 to 100,000 people descended on Leicester, England in 1885 to stop compulsory vaccinations. This goes back a long time. Polio, how many of you know about the Cutter incident? None. How many know that we were spraying kids with DDT in the 40s in food? And then they reclassed the disease in 54, so before everything was polio. Now, after that, we have transverse myelitis, acute flaccid myelitis, Guillain-Barré. That's what they think Roosevelt had, right? That's the same thing they did here, pneumonia, flu, and COVID. It's an old play. Look past the curtain. I don't know who just said that. Yes, look past the curtain. It's wide open. 54% of our children have a chronic health illness. We've lost 7 IQ points since they removed liability from farm in 1990. Look past the curtain.
Our next speaker is Tanya Evans.
That's right.
Tanya Evans is speaking to us regarding masks from Central CUSD number 4. Tanya?
Yes. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a superintendent at Clifton Central Community Unit School District. We are located 20 miles south of Kankakee and approximately 60 miles from Champaign. We have 1,000 students and 150 employees. We were a district that provided in-person instruction 5 days a week last year. That was a very difficult task to accomplish, but we did it through the hard work of our teachers, our administrators, and our parents that provided support. Our board, who is all volunteers, met in person throughout the entire pandemic. We did not miss a meeting, so we have been meeting in person through the entire pandemic, following all social distancing guidelines that we were required to meet. We also planned for a return to school this summer, which provided that masks would be recommended after we had communication from the CDC, ISBE, and IDPH. The executive order was issued on August 4th. So 1 week later, we shared this information with our parents that the executive order would be followed, as we were mandated to do. Since that time, we as teachers, administrators, and board members who are serving as volunteers have faced nothing but public backlash for trying to enforce this mandate. All public trust from our taxpayers, parents, and those we encompass in our communities has been eroded. These are the people we are to serve. We have parents telling us that they will not abide by the mandate and that they intend to sue if we are not allowing their children to attend and provided instruction. We have had to request police presence because of concerns of unrest escalating. And our police presence is not what I experienced this morning. You have very good police presence. We are in a community that we're about 30 miles away from police presence. So we do not have the same opportunities that you are provided. And this is not what school should look like for children, where we're asking for police presence due to the unrest. We understand COVID is very real, and the conditions and metrics can change very quickly. We adapted to this last year and did close buildings when needed. We did have a 2-week shutdown last year during the time when our metrics were very high. We would do the same this year if given local control to adapt to the metrics in our communities. We plead that you hear our concerns and desire to have local control in these decisions. We want parents to decide what is best for their children with the wearing of masks. We want our focus to be on educating students, which we feel we do well when not faced with the current distractions and disruptions that we are trying to address in the interim. Thank you for listening to the concerns we are facing and our pleas to have local control once again, which has been previously granted to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Our next speaker is Brad Dettering. Brad is coming to us regarding the mask mandate from Salem Community High School.
Good morning. My name is Brad Dettering. I'm the superintendent at Salem Community High School. You won't need those cards because my remarks will be brief. I tell the graduates every year before graduation, you may not remember what I had to say, but you'll remember that it was brief. And so I'll extend you the same courtesy. Monday night, the Board of Education voted to follow the mandate, to do what was right. Not necessarily because it came from the governor or from ISB or from IDPH, but to do what was right because our metrics in our county and in our internal metrics in our school mandated it. We currently, before we started day one of school, had 10 students in our high school only of positive cases. We never had 10 positive cases at any point in time during the last school year. Our metrics mandated us to do what was right and use the guidance and follow the mask mandate. Our request from the Salem Community High School Board of Education is that when our metrics are favorable, we would like the same opportunity to go back to masks being recommended if our metrics suggest it. Thank you.
Kirsten, just a time check. I think you said we have about 23 additional individuals signed up. So just for the board's sake, in terms of the agenda, that would be, a little over an hour.
Our next speaker is Maha Cheka. Maha is speaking to us regarding the remote learning option. The next speaker is Jason Jaquat. Jason Jaquat is speaking on the organization is Warsaw as a parent.
Can I get that ladies before her 3 minutes? Just kidding. All right. Hi, Jason Jacko here. I live where the three states come together, Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois, and Basco, Illinois. I have a junior son at Warsaw, and I did one term on the Warsaw School Board from 2013 to 17, where we had to fire 10 non-certified employees and raise taxes to an unheard amount of $1 assessed value on the rate. I mention this past info because the state, you guys, withheld our funds, and our taxpayers truly wanted the safest and healthiest options for our kids and fight to the death for them when threatened. I now would like to read you a letter. It's dated today. Dear Illinois State Board of Education and Dr. Karma, I'm sorry, they slaughtered my name, Jacko is his, Alila or something. On August 12th, Thursday afternoon, the Warsaw School Board received a threatening letter. As a concerned parent from me, from the Warsaw Community Unit School District 316, will verify that you, ISB, and Dr. Laya is non-compliant with House Bill 2789, which did not pass and got voted down. House Bill 2789 stated, and you can look it up on your phones, provided the ISB may revoke recognition for schools that fail to comply with public health requirements issued by the Illinois Department of Health when a health emergency is declared by the governor. That was voted down. It's black and white. No law passed. So the school boards still have control. Therefore, effective this date of this letter, us concerned citizens of Illinois will be penalizing ISB and Dr. Elena's kids, cats, and dogs because your letter went after our kids at Warsaw and Elmhurst, etc. We got threatened. Your letter didn't go after the parent. Your letter didn't go after us parents or school board that voted to go mask optional. You became a bully that day and went after my son and every other student at Warsaw. Now I will continue back to the letter. We will lower your standards to on probation for exhibiting dictatorship and bullying control over our Warsaw students.
We do not take this recognition action lightly. We understand that the state masking requirements have changed over the course of the pandemic in line with scientific evidence and public health data. As per the Hancock County Health Department, we had 0 deaths and 2 hospitalizations in the county since March 13, 2020, a year and a half ago. We had 1 death in our youth in a farm-related accident, and we have more hospitalized in bike wrecks than COVID. As we have throughout this pandemic, last year and a half, we have treated you with respect and followed orders, but you will be notified immediately when changes to the Hancock County Public Health Matters thing. Someone from Illinois will reach out to you and schedule a conference to discuss compliance issues with representatives of our students. You have 60 days. It's the same letter that you sent us. Here's my
Our next speaker is Harsimran Singh. Harsimran is speaking to us today regarding elementary remote learning, affiliated with Lynchpin. Our next speaker is Melissa Conan. Melissa is speaking to us regarding Executive Order 2021-18, addressing the board as a parent. Our next speaker is initial R, Erica Schaefer. Erica is speaking to us regarding the remote learning option on the organization of #SafeReturnHF. Erica. Our next speaker is Kevin Ross. Kevin Ross is speaking to us on the topic of opportunities for local control regarding COVID decisions, affiliated with Marshall CUSD C2.
Kevin Ross, Superintendent, Marshall Schools. Don't have anything really prepared except this few thoughts. We were one of many, a lot of respect for everybody and all they're doing in schools and in communities to fight through this. We stepped out on day 1, 8 to 3, every day, all year, with an in-person learning option and a remote learning option with the exception of 3 snow days. I feel strongly for our board, for our community, for all boards, all communities. We need to get down to where we make decisions on COVID the same way we make decisions on those 3 snow days. We watch the forecast. We fret over the forecast. We fret over what the roads are. We get up at 4 a.m. We go out and drive them. And based on what's there, we make a decision on what we're going to do that day. You know, this feels like an endless blizzard that we're in right now with regards to COVID. We all want it gone. We have the data from last year. I know last year I had 0 students with COVID when we entered school on day 1, and we had 0 kids in quarantine. Yesterday I had 7 kids between my schools that had COVID, and I've got 21 already in quarantine. Our peak was 142 students in quarantine last year. Our peak was 14 positives. We talk to our health departments daily. We talk to our doctors daily. We're the ones making calls to parents and working on contact tracing and doing all of those things to try and keep us open so that the most kids possible had an in-person option daily. You know, part of that there was masks. We had no spread recorded amongst our kids last year in the building. The spread was all outside. We were hoping in July, we were hoping late March, that numbers were trending in a good direction, that we would be able to go recommended, not required, which we did. August 4th, the mandate came. Our board made the difficult decision to follow. We would like to get back to where we can look at our metric, look at our data, look at what's going on in our house, and make decisions based on that. We have told our public that's what we would come up and argue for and defend, and we're willing to make tough decisions, as they did the other night, that may not be popular, but you know, truly believe, just like a snow day. Nobody in Iowa, Chicago, Springfield's equipped to make a snow day call in Marshall or Clark County or Edgar County. Those decisions should be made right there based on what's going on right there. Thank you all.
Our next speaker is Seth Schuler. Seth is speaking on local control, affiliated with the Cowden-Herrick CUSD 3A.
Thank you, board, for hearing our thoughts. I know we would all agree that community involvement is very important in our schools. And even noted in the ESSER and the ARP grant that was released to school districts in July, there was a line in the grant, before you submit it, it says the LEA, or the local school district, must seek public comment on the back-to-school plan and take such comments into consideration when developing a plan. For our district, we did just that. We sought public comment. We got a statement from the local union. We studied the local COVID metrics, collaborated with the local health department, analyzed the successes that we had last year and things that we could learn from, and also fitted in with the parameters of the CDC guidance and IDPH guidance as well. We felt good about that plan. It was created with public support and input. Then on August 4th, without any change in CDC guidance or guidance from the IDPH, that changed. And at our next board meeting, we had 50 community members show up. Our board meetings average 0. And during that board meeting, a board member said to me, "So I'm a locally elected official serving in the hardest issue that the school districts have ever had to face. We have more public comment than we have ever had. And yet, I'm mandated to totally disregard what they are saying and have no choice in it." And I said, unfortunately, that is the position of the state. That is the position of ISB. We cannot ask for public input and community involvement in schools without having the ability to respond to what they say. It is tearing apart positive school-community relationships that have been in place for years. The last request that I would have for this board is I would ask that you would stop the pursuit of recognition status for schools that are not following the mandate. Since August 4th executive order, ISB's position has been that they'll pursue removing recognition status for schools that are in compliance. And I'd ask you to look at what those schools have been through since March of 20. For 2 school years, they followed everything to the T. Read hundreds of pages of guidance. Closed schools, open schools, quarantined students, social distance, and masks. Did everything. Totally reinvented education. And even as recent as 2 weeks ago, had a plan in place that was fully recognized and in compliance with the CDC and IDPH, and everybody would have said, that is a school worthy of recognition. But then on August 4th, with the executive order, those districts are no longer recognized. They're no longer worthy of being called a school district. And when I consider all that they have been through, that does not seem like a proportional response. I would ask this board to please stop the pursuit of recognition status and just solely focus on educating the students and supporting the schools best they can.
My next speaker is Dr. Maria Sinkule. Dr. Sinkule is speaking on remote and COVID-19 as a school social worker. Our next speaker is Candace Coulter. Candace Coulter is speaking to us on the topic of please allow schools to use remote learning in areas of high COVID transmission, speaking as a parent. Our next speaker is Jessica Brunner. Jessica Brunner is speaking on a revision to mask as a parent. Our next speaker is, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm here. My apologies.
Hello, my name is Jessica T. Bruner. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I recently attended our local school board meeting that spoke to parents about overturning their initial vote to make masks optional based on the community's response and what they know. The change wasn't made because of the new information, but was based solely on a blatant intimidation brought on by the state of Illinois, the Illinois State Board of Education. As an educator, a higher tax bracket taxpayer, and a mother, I'm extremely bothered by these actions. We teach in our school districts about bullying. However, we are seeing firsthand what it looks like on a state level. Depending on where one finds, there are at least 115 to 200 schools in the state of Illinois that prepare to open back up with optional mask usage. But by now, because of your strict enforcement of a supposed health risk, you are using a tyrannical and communistic approach to force masks due to our billionaire governor's mandate, whom occasionally resides in our state. Usually one who bullies is also being bullied or psychologically controlled. So I have to wonder, who is forcing your hand to make schools so fearful of losing funding, sports, arts programs, diplomas, accreditations, or whatever you feel need to take away so they have no choice but to conform? Many of us have seen your letter to the private school you sent in Elgin, not advising them, but instead forcing them to abide by your ruling or they will lose accreditations in sports. You have sent the same message to Cerro Gordo School District, Mount Zion School District, Meridian School District, and now I'm adding Clinton, because they're in our area. And several others I know about based on what was in our school board meeting. You not only reached out to public schools with this force, but to private schools like LSA and St. Teresa, who are not funded by the state and run their schools based on a religious principle. You weren't able to get by with just taking funding away because they aren't funded by the government. So instead you threatened to take away art programs and their sports. There are schools being put on probation, and if they don't comply, you have gone so far as to say you will take away their accreditation and the children's diplomas, as well as funding, which is an extreme measure that only hurts the children. It doesn't hurt the parents, it hurts the children. Now our children who attend public or private schools don't have a choice to use visual cues to learn, use lip reading for hearing impaired to learn, or have the ability to breathe clean air instead of carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, for 7 to 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. One may feel that this forced hand will solve a specific virus issue that's been shown to barely affect our youth. It seems to me that you have chosen to not listen to reputable voices and reputable viral scientists, but blindly following a mandate set by our governor, whom has not followed his own mandate or the CDC's suggestions, and oftentimes reside in another state. So I'm confused why you're doing this to our children. Studies from other countries are now showing that prolonged carbon dioxide will have similar effects to carbon monoxide leaking in the home. This mandate won't really affect me because I have told my high schoolers if they feel any symptoms, and I've given them the rundown on what they are, to pull down their mask, get fresh air, and to continually take breaks breathing through their nose. If the school calls, we will deal with it at that time. My elementary child will not be attending public school now and is now enrolled in an accredited online school, and I don't even ever foresee her doing this. This brings me one more point. By ultimately forcing parents, this brings me to my next concern with the state of Illinois. As you are all aware, more and more families are leaving Illinois schools and going to homeschool, an unschool, or like me, an online school. So as you force your hand, you are also forcing those on the fence to go ahead and try this form of education, in which has a huge following, parental backing, and support groups. In Illinois, one can also see the trend of Illinois leaving the state to states that don't support irrational Illinois rulings. I do want to also state one more thing, that I urge anyone that is against the mandate to also write and visit their House representative. Mine is Dan Calkins, my Senate representative is Chapin Rose, and yes, Jay Pritzker, our current governor, resides in Florida, which does not have a state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My next speaker is Jennifer Ebner. Jennifer is speaking to us on the topic of unmasking our children. Her organization is Parent YANA.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Ebner, and that would be an organization called YANA. The first thing I want to speak to you about is this pandemic. It was planned. If you need evidence, you can look up on Johns Hopkins. Look for Event 201. Very interesting. I want you guys to, we're on camera, nobody's going to get hurt here, close your eyes for a minute and step away from being an ISB board member and go into parent mode, okay? This was sent to me yesterday, last night actually. I guess my daughter was exposed to a student on Thursday who now tests positive for COVID while in school and wearing a mask. So today they had called me, told me that I have to pick her up and quarantine her. They told her to not move, to not touch anything. They grabbed everything out of her locker. I mean everything. She couldn't be left alone, and she felt like she was carrying the plague and felt humiliated. If masks are so damn life-saving, why must my daughter be treated like that when both her and the other student, who she doesn't even know who it was, were both wearing masks and social distancing? No child deserves to be treated like that. This is just one child. Take yourself out of the state, out of your seat here, and go talk to some of these children. Go see for yourself what these children are going through, because it's not good. You're making a decision based on a governor who doesn't even stay in state. Also, Constitution of Illinois, or Constitution of the United States, excuse me. There's also a Constitution for Illinois. There's two separate ones. I carry the U.S. one with me everywhere I go. Also, the other thing I want to know is, where is your authority to carry out the mask mandate? Show me proof. You want proof from us? You have scientists, you have whatever information you have. Show me your authority. Show America, show Illinois your authority, because there is none. You had friendly staff here through the whole process of coming up and sitting here. You guys have been, most of you have been great. I've seen a couple board members here act like they don't care. Twiddling their fingers, on their phone. It's ridiculous. We are your taxpayers. We pay. You've been elected. You don't get paid. You work for us, just like the local school boards do.
30 seconds.
There's a school local to me, not my kid's school, local to me. There's a parent willing to put a raffle in to get kids vaccinated. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Read what's actually in those vaccinations. Read up on the masks, on what it actually causes, what it does to your body. And I'll tell you now, I hope none of you are caught outside of this room without a mask on in a public place, if you're going to mandate our children to wear them at school.
Our next speaker is Philip Capozzi. Philip Capozzi is speaking to us on local control from Meridian 223.
It's PJ, but the old autocorrect on the phone as it filled in puts in Philip. So Meridian 223 is located in Northwest Illinois. I want to thank the board and Dr. Ayala for allowing everyone to speak and amending your own rules. I think that was a courageous move, and I appreciate the leadership on that. So, being that I'm like 2.5 hours into this, there's not much that I can say that's new or refreshing. So as I sat back there, I kind of tore up in my mind this speech that I had written. I want to talk to you guys just a little bit about context. I will want to say, for the record, I do think what ISB is projecting is overreach. And I know that you guys will find out through litigation, right? Like, and that's not me threatening you. I know what's in process. So I know that we will find out as a state whether it was an overreach or not. I also want to say very clearly that while I am not anti-mask at all, in fact, I probably lean to be a little bit pro-mask, I am also far, far more pro-parent choice. And I think that's that we are missing in this. And so I think you can be both, right? Like, so I don't think it has to be a one or the other. I know you're hearing both of those arguments. And what I used to describe that is just what happened in our county last year. Our county has 7 large districts in a small rural county. At one point, we had some districts that were fully in person, some that were fully remote, and some that were hybrid. And the reason we had that is because we were taking care of our kids, and we were taking care of our communities. And we were doing everything we could to provide continuity of education while loving and respecting what was going on with COVID. And the question for me is, I think it was a much harder decision last year to determine whether we should be in person or not in person with what we knew about the virus than where we are now. But last year we were trusted to make that decision locally, and now we are not trusted. And the bottom line for me is this, is whether or not we are mask mandatory or mask optional, it would work itself out. Meaning the way the quarantine rules are, no district could stay open if the mask optional approach did not work. Right? We're hearing multiple superintendents come up here and say the numbers are higher to start the year this year than they were last year. Same in my district. We would have a dramatic amount of kids quarantined right now. It would have worked itself out. We just want the ability to leave. We want the ability to be trusted. We want the ability to represent our parents. The last thing I'll say before we go is that I'm tasked through a lot of ISB documentation and other things to talk to my stakeholders. I would just say, speaking only for myself, but I think that I represent a good deal of superintendents, is that I feel that we've been disenfranchised in this process, particularly by ISB, and not included with some decisions that would have, I think, helped ISB save some face along the way. There's a district in Sacramento, in California. When they released their plan, they said, we've thought of everything, before they released it to their teachers, and they realized very quickly they didn't think of everything. I kind of feel like that's kind of how everything has worked with ISB. The first 10 days of this, back in March of last year, we had lots of information, and we were involved, and I think we helped steer the ship. Since then, we haven't had our voices valued, and I think that ISB has lost the voice of the field, and I'm really, really sad for that. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Our next speaker is Martin Rue Jr., speaking to us on masking children, and the organization is YANA.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm Martin Rue Jr. I'm from Peru, Illinois, in LaSalle County. I'm here representing LaSalle County YANA, which stands for You Are Not Alone. I'm also a precinct committeeman for the LaSalle County Republican Central Committee. Today I want to speak in regards to the overreach of our governor and this board that is usurping the law. First of all, your decision to revoke the recognition status of Timothy Christian Schools is absolutely without premise. No decision had been made as to whether or not the school would require masks or make them optional. What you did is akin to arresting someone for murder just because he said he wanted to kill someone. Such a case would be tossed out of the court in a heartbeat because nothing was actually done. I see they have recently chosen to comply. Congratulations. Your bully tactics have taken the day. In regards to recognition status alone, you are overstepping by interfering with possible scholarship opportunities, both academic and athletic. You're using bully tactics to force compliance with what you feel to be accurate. There are countless doctors and scientists throughout the state, the country, and indeed the world who provide evidence contrary to what alleged bureaucratic experts contend is the truth. The law requires all students to attend school through age 18. It is my understanding that you refuse to provide remote learning to students who do not comply with your mask mandate. This only leaves one alternative for parents who do not believe in your forced mandate: homeschooling. For parents who cannot provide for homeschooling their children, you are breaking the law by denying educational opportunities. The children of Illinois deserve better than this. They should not be forced out of school, thus segregating them. They should not be forced to long endure mental health issues that have led to skyrocketing suicide rates. They should be allowed to learn alongside their friends, unhindered and unsegregated.
30 seconds.
Children need to socially flourish in the school environment. I want to close by saying we are well past the point where more damage is done by following supposed science than not. For our children's sake, for their health and well-being, reverse your unlawful decision before we needlessly lose one more child. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Shane Gordon. Shane is speaking to us regarding mandates, representing Blueford USD number 318.
I'd like to start off by first fully commending all of you for allowing this many to speak outside of what is the norm for board meetings. So good morning, my name is Dr. Shane Gordon. I serve as the superintendent for the Blueford Unit School District in eastern Jefferson County, about 8 miles outside of Mount Vernon. The pandemic has personified the inequities that exist in our state. My school district took our experience from the initial shutdown in March 2020 and learned that was no way to educate our children. We entered into last school year with 3 goals. First, to keep students and staff safe. Second, to limit the impact if someone does test positive. And third, provide full-time instruction to our kids. Through meticulous planning and thorough follow-through, we were one of the very few school districts having to accomplish that, with only 2% of our students electing a remote option over the course of the last school year. We were able to accomplish this with only having 26 positive cases the entire school year. All but one was definitively traced outside of the school. We kept everyone safe while providing our kids as normal of an education as possible. Yet here we are today without the ability for our locally elected and locally accountable officials with the ability to make decisions based on the conditions that our community is experiencing. Therefore, I come to you pleading to reconsider the course of action the State Board is currently taking. I've been disheartened to learn that some of our colleagues in education have been put on probation because of their locally elected officials exercising local control. My district did choose to follow the mandate by a 4-3 vote. Quite honestly, this decision was one made out of fear of this organization and the consequences associated. I'm before you today to express that fear is no way to govern and fear is no way to lead. I want to share with you that over the course of the last week, my volunteer board members and myself have been subjected to very poor behavior as a result of the board approving my recommendation to enforce the mandate. I wish to express the current situation created by Springfield is untenable in many school districts across the state. Good people are leaving as a result of this. I'm concerned with the recent measures taken by this board against school districts that you should be supporting. I'm advocating that districts should have the authority to make decisions based on the conditions that are unique to every district. You heard Salem High School share right here the conditions and how they would make their decision. My district shares a border with Salem High School. The current conditions for the Blueford Unit School District are very different from what they're experiencing there. We currently have 0 positive students and only 1 staff member that began the school year COVID positive. A blanket approach for the state just simply doesn't make sense. Districts across the state proved last year that they'll make decisions based on the best interests of the health and safety of their students and staff, and I have no doubt that that would continue. I am today with a plea. The State Board of Education needs to work to put the authority back where it belongs, take the steps necessary, and end a statewide approach that is dividing communities across the state. Put the power back where it belongs with the individuals who are elected and directly responsible to each community. Thank you.
Speaker is Todd Hellriegel. Todd is speaking to us regarding diversity, local control from Midwest Central CUSD 191.
Good morning. My name is Todd Hellriegel. I'm Superintendent of Midwest Central School District. We serve Manitou, Green Valley, Topeka, and Forest City, Illinois. We're approximately 200 square miles in size, and we serve about 950 students. Today's our first day with students, and I hope that my presence emphasizes the importance of this topic. In 27 years, I've never missed an opening day with students. I'd like to thank you briefly this morning for your service, and I'd like to, as well, thank the State Superintendent for her service. For the last several years, school districts have heard the message of the State Board of Education and the Governor with regard to respecting student diversity, as well as advocating for student diversity. Unfortunately, in many of our minds this morning, those words do not match the actions that the State Board of Education and the Governor's office has taken. Illinois is an incredibly diverse state. What you find in northern Illinois, central Illinois, and southern Illinois is all very different. As many have said, a one-size-fits-all approach to governing does not work for our state. The superintendents in this room and their boards of education that they represent are uniquely qualified to deal with the diversity that exists in our districts. What I would respectfully ask you to consider for the future with regard to the many mandates and rules that we receive from you is that you respect our diversity in our districts and give us the authority to make the decisions that are best for the people we serve. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Seth. Kanjal is speaking to us regarding back to school unvaccinated kids. No organization. I do not see Kanjal. Next speaker is Jerry Ferris. Jerry Ferris is speaking to us regarding local control from Flanagan Cornell, District 74.
Thank you. I'm proud to be the superintendent, interim superintendent, of Flanagan Cornell District 74. We were the first hybrid school district that was put together. Mr. Risberg helped with that. We've always looked at the ISB as a form of support and appreciate what ISB does for the state. This is a time, though, when I'm going to repeat some of the same things that others have said and try not to be redundant. Bottom line is we want local control. Our people want that. We went through all this last year. We have the lived experience of dealing with this, with all of our mitigations. We've proven to be successful with the things we have in place. And if it does call for it, the statistics does call for wearing masks all the time, we will do that because we have. But right now, those statistics are not there. Like others have said, the state is very diverse. Our little county in Livingston County does a great job of taking care of things, but we really appreciate the assistance we get from the health department, and we rely on them for that information as well. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Brian Hurst. Brian Hurst is speaking to us on local control from El Paso Grizzlies USD number 11.
Sorry to say good morning. I guess it just turned noon, so good afternoon. I am Brian Curry, superintendent at El Paso Grizzly Schools, and we often speak about the strength that comes through diversity in our great state. And that's true, but that strength's only realized when diverse perspectives have a voice, those voices are valued, and those voices are heard. That's what we try so hard to do when building plans and advocating for our communities. And you've heard that from several superintendents today. But the exact opposite of that was modeled by our state leadership. Superintendents across the state heard in July there would be local decision-making based on local data. That was trust given to us last year, and we worked with our communities. We listened to them. We cried with them. We argued with them, and we served well. When we heard that, we again partnered with our communities. We spent time listening and talking through scenarios and running through plans throughout the summer. Then in August, the governor reprimanded us for not making the right local control decisions and took that authority away. Local control was taken away from us because people who do not know the names of the kids that walk our halls knew better what to do for them than those of us who walk by them, rub shoulders with them, see them at the park, at church, out in the community every single day. We live in our communities. We make decisions out of a desire to love and serve those people who we walk through life with every single day. They are our families, our neighbors, and our friends. And we will only do what we believe wholeheartedly is in the best interest of them. I understand that we will have a wide variety of decisions about what's best to do. My thing is this: as we work so hard to connect with our communities, we're asking for the leaders of our state to show us the trust to do that, but also to try to connect with us and to hear our voice as we advocate for what's right in our communities. You see, this is not solely about masking, because this is about local control and honoring the small communities. And in the conversations I'm hearing and the fears in our hometown come about what's next. What authorities can be taken away from us next? What kind of decisions will we not be able to make for our kids? And so I ask you to work with local districts, to allow local control, because we do care about the people we walk by every single day. We want to partner with you, but we need you to invite us to the table in that conversation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jeff Hill. Jeff Hill is speaking regarding local control from Morton District 709.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Hill. I'm Superintendent of Morton District 709. Morton's just outside of Peoria. It's a school district of roughly 3,100 students and 400 staff. Like many of the superintendents that are here today, we represent a group of schools that last year were in person full days, every day, all year long. And we were able to do that primarily, I believe, at least in Morton, and I'm sure this is similar to other districts that have spoken. Our number one mitigation strategy is our parents. Our parents send healthy kids to school and they keep sick kids home. And I know that sounds awfully simple, but it works. During the height of the pandemic last year in Morton, we had 30 positive cases out of 3,100 students. So roughly 10%, and or less than, I'm sorry, way less than 10%, and the positivity rate around us was at 14 or 15%. Our schools were safe places for our kids, and we did an excellent job with our staff, our students, and our community. Every week, we put out information regarding the health data of our students, and we were very transparent with that, and we made adjustments. We never had to shut down a school building. We had to send a grade level home once or twice, but we managed it. And I think what you're hearing today, and if I can take the opportunity to sum up some of these comments, is you have a group of schools in Illinois that have done this and done this successfully and feel as though that opportunity to meet the needs of the community and to meet the needs of our students and to take the next step for our schools and our communities has been taken away from us. We would like that back. We would like our voice to be heard. To my knowledge, nobody from the state board has asked about schools that were in person all year long and what we did to be successful. We think that's important information. I'm sure some of us might feel like the state's about a year behind on where we're at because of the fact that we've been in person all year long. I realize it's a very complex situation and the state's a very complex and diverse place, and where ISB may need to be strong to help out urban and suburban areas to deal with what they deal with on a regular basis, they may not need to be as strong or as forceful in communities that are more unified in a particular area. And so I ask that ISB recognize the differences in schools throughout the state, that they recognize that we're all trying to do our best, but we need the tools to do our best. And the mandate, we approved our plan the day before the governor's mandate, and it was a mitigated plan that gave masks as being recommended in our first level, but masks were a mitigation for our level 2 if our numbers got to that point.
We're going to need your help, Superintendent.
Thank you. We asked for that flexibility. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Thomas Welsh. Thomas is speaking to us regarding local choice from Roanoke Benson. Mr. Welsh. Our next speaker is Jesse Leifer. Jesse is speaking regarding non-compliant school districts as a parent.
Thank you for this moment to speak. On behalf of all local school districts, you have no right to micromanage as you are attempting. Your job is basic academics and guidance, not directing a dictatorship. Furthermore, you have absolutely no right to intimidate and threaten our local school districts like a bully on a playground. Local school boards represent local students, not some large bloated entity drunk on their own power and oblivious to reality. When local school districts make a decision, it is with the belief that it is in the best interest of their students and their community. Fears of being politically incorrect have blurred our lines of reality. Allow me to clarify a line or two for you. In a crisis, we bet 17 months of our children's childhood on our leaders. And the only thing our leaders have been consistent with is being efficiently inconsistent and negating any talk of natural immunity. Politics have no place within our school walls. Children are not tools for people in power to weaponize against their parents. My children are a non-negotiable subject. I co-parent with no government officials. You do not get to paint my child in a single brushstroke. When you threaten and try to intimidate my local school district, you are threatening and trying to intimidate me. You are posing a direct threat to my child, trying to take away my rights and responsibilities as their parent. This is absolutely unacceptable. And Doctor, you have been on that phone all day and not have given anybody the dignity of your eye contact. I will not stand by idly while you set your precedent for control over my child. Stay in your lane and tell your handlers that they should get their own house in order before they tell us how to run ours. I urge you to reconsider the path you have currently chosen. Thank you for your time. Woo!
John Kraft. John is speaking on the topic of the board meeting.
Good afternoon. I'm John Pratt, one of the directors of the Edgar County Watchdogs. You get a break because I'm not going to talk about masking policy, even though I firmly believe you overstepped your bounds, and I hope the school district will take you to task in the courts. My comment is about your public participation policy, and I see you have an agenda item on that, which is 8C. And I would hope you discuss changing your current policy. Item number 1 says that people are asked to sign up 30 minutes in advance, not required, like they tried to push on us when we showed up here this morning. The Attorney General has issued opinions recently stating that advanced sign-ups as close as 3 or 4 minutes prior to a meeting hinder the public's ability to speak. And public comment policy is supposed to enhance the ability of the public to speak. They've determined that public comment policies, in my particular case of Pecatonica Township, I attempted to sign up 14 minutes in advance of a meeting, and they determined the township violated the Open Meetings Act. I would ask that you get guidance from the Attorney General before you update your policy. This is a public meeting of the State Board of Education. What does it matter if any other government officials want to speak, or elected officials? What priority, why are you giving them higher priority? Oh, I appreciate Mr. Bailey and the other state representatives. I enjoyed listening to them. But there's no basis to give them priority to speak. They're at your meeting, at the State Board of Education meeting. They're not at their meeting. They're not in the Senate chambers. They don't have any higher priority than Billy Bob from Noble, Illinois, that wants to come and talk to you. I ask you to change that. Telling people they can't address the board, item number 7 on your policy, telling people they cannot address the board on charges or level complaints against employees under the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. They most certainly can. This is one of the places where they can. You don't have to accept it as an official complaint, but to tell them they can't lodge complaints here when they're speaking, in my opinion, violates the Open Meetings Act. Boisterous conduct or defamatory or abusive language says it will not be tolerated. Define defamatory or abusive language. I don't think you can. Not in a way that would uphold in the court of law with your
Thank you.
trying to shut people off. And by cutting, give me about 10 more seconds. The process that you've used in this meeting is offensive. It's offensive to me when you give state senators, state representatives, and other people 3 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 minutes and 40 seconds to speak, and then you cut people off, cut their microphone off, where people with me with hearing aids can't hear them finish, long before that when you don't appreciate what they're saying. Thank you.
For transparency, we have three remaining speakers. Our next speaker is Steve Lucy. Steve Lucy is speaking to us regarding education as a taxpayer farmer.
Do you guys mind if I pull my mouse when I talk? Yes?
Yes, you can do that.
I appreciate you having me here today. My name is Steve Lucy. I'm the Executive Director of We Stand for Our Students. I'm also Chapter Chairman for Awake Illinois, but I'm not here to talk about that today. Today I'm here to talk to you about me being a farmer, 17 years on a school board in Hancock County, Illinois, with a school district that you just recently put on probation. This is Warsaw, for instance. The school is a school that has, over the years, I would say, excelled in education in Illinois. This school district has produced many doctors, pharmacists, lawyers, and teachers and administrators. Currently, we have an administrator. I think all of our administrators came through the Illinois system. This school district has 180 kids in the high school. They have done all these things and sent these kids out into the world to do fantastic things in fantastic colleges. We usually have scholarships at the end of the year, and generally we have at least $500,000 to $750,000 worth of scholarships to go to our kids. It's been up to $1 million before. My daughter was one of those kids. She was a valedictorian a few years ago, and she's now a college athlete at a private college in Iowa, pursuing education. She doesn't know if she'll come back to Illinois to teach. And that's because of what we're doing. It's because of the policies that are being made from you guys. And the majority of that is from taking control away from us, our local people. This school district has had 10 nominations to the United States Military Academy at West Point, 5 of which graduated from there, 2 of which are my sons currently serving, which gives us all the right to sit here and gives you the privilege to listen to these good people. And I'm sure you've seen the news. Given the situation now, you can see the importance of that. Thank you. I would ask you to please not assume that you know better than us, the taxpayers and the people in those local districts that have the track record that we do in some of these schools, from doing it ourselves and making that control known and elected officials from generations of people. I'm a 5-generation farmer in our town. Lots of people like me have served on our board. I'm asking you to do the right thing for these kids and these people in the community. I can assure you that there's people out here that know they have the control, whether you choose to wield it on them or not. People are looking to what's going on, and we're not going to just sit and roll over and take that. We're going to voice our opinions, and we're going to do what we can to get the help we need for our kids. And I applaud these superintendents, and I applaud you guys, and I applaud the people. The people of this state are the ones that we need to be looking at, and generally the kids right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kirk Allen.
Thank you. My name is Kirk Allen, co-founder of Hancock County Watchdogs. How's it going, Roger? Follow the science. John took a lot of the wind out of my sails. I was going to cover the public participation. I think he's addressed those comments. I'm going to address follow the science. I spent a career in the military, and I wasn't taught to hide. I was taught to fight. No, I don't mean I'm going to come here and physically fight. What are we teaching our kids and the rest of this community in this state about fighting what we are facing? How many programs have focused on individual personal health, increasing the particular vitamin D levels and the zinc levels that help these students and these people? Where is the focus on the fight against the bug? And more importantly, where's the science of when you get the bug, gosh, go home and let's see if you get sicker? Where's the immediate treatment? I'm speaking from one who has recovered from COVID. And you know what? I had no problems. Why? Because I immediately fought with appropriate treatments and virtually in a matter of 36 hours was symptom-free. But I had to go elsewhere from the state of Illinois to get that treatment because our system wants us to stay home and stay sick. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But we're not talking about mitigating our personal health. We're talking about what can we do based on CDC's recommendations, and to this day I've not seen a single recommendation on personal health. Where is it? When you get diagnosed with a disease, do you sit at home and wait to see if it's going to get worse? I would hope not. That's not how I was raised. But that's what we're doing. We're going to send kids home and see if they get sick instead of start immediate treatment. It makes no sense. While you're so focused as a board or as the superintendent of schools to take action against these local control units, I just ask, and I ask this question of every public body we go to, when you got on this board, did you read your powers and duties? What are they? Or do you just listen to the others that have been here and say, hey, this is how we always do it? Where in the law does it say you can do what you're doing? Why do I know we're not following the science? I'm sitting here at a table that has no hand sanitizer, not one person's cleaned it, people put masks on the table, and nobody's worried about it. Thank you. I got 30 seconds. We're not following the science in vast areas that we should. Why is that? How many of you have read all 26 findings of your last compliance audit? Have you? It's a simple question, yes or no. Have you read those 26 findings? They were failures and non-compliance identified by you people through the Auditor General. Have you read those? Nobody will even raise a hand and say yes? That should tell the public everything we need to know. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Travis Roundcap, Mount Zion Superintendent. May I have your name? I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm Catherine O'Shea.
Catherine O'Shea.
From Oak Lawn.
May I have just a moment to cross-check my list?
Yes.
Thank you.
What does that have to do?
I don't see you on my list, but please go ahead and address the board.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Catherine O'Shea. I'm from Oak Lawn. District 218. My youngest is senior at District 218 in Oak Lawn. So I wear many hats, but a mother is the most important one. I'm here for all the children of Illinois also, though. I've been to other school board meetings to try and help them. Just so you know, I served 6 years on a school board as a trustee, Worth Township Trustee of Schools. And, you know, I was the only one that would constantly question whatever was set before me. The other ones would get a little aggravated, but I says, this is what we're here for. Well, don't you trust so-and-so? We're not here to trust. We're here to question and make everybody accountable, including ourselves. So I'm asking you, do you question? Did you question Dr. Iola, and I apologize if I'm not saying your name right, when she sent out the letters? Do you have the authority to do that? Did you question her and ask her, are these the guidelines that we have to stay within, or are you going out of the guidelines? And did she bring it before you before she sent out those letters? Did she let you discuss it, question it, debate it, and vote on it? Or did she just take it upon herself? Because you do not, the superintendent does not have the authority, your board does not have that authority to do that, to send out those letters, disqualifying the status of schools and threatening them to lose funding. They don't have that. You don't have that. There is a bill on the floor. It was not accepted. It was not voted into law. Until then, you don't have that. So, you know, I hear a lot of people asking you if you would please contact the, schools and give them the power back. But again, you don't have the power in the first place to take it. So I'm not going to ask you to give it to them. They already have it. You need to send an apology to the superintendent, who you did send the letter to, and send it to them with a letter of apology of your misinterpretation of your authority. We all make mistakes, and it's fine. Maybe you thought you did have the authority. Maybe the board thought your superintendent had the authority. But that's okay. We all make mistakes. We're here to help you. We'll help each other. So a letter of apology to the superintendent, letting you know you misinterpreted your authority, and clarify to them that the local districts have the authority. Please push the immune system with telling people to exercise, get sunlight, vitamin C, D, and zinc. If you would push that as much as you're pushing this vaccine and masks and all this other stuff, we'd all be healthy and all around.
The final speaker on my list is Travis Roundkeld, Mount Zion Superintendent. And I appreciate your flexibility.
Thank you all for your time today. I didn't plan on speaking, but I had a point that I hadn't heard yet, and I felt like you need to be aware of it if you weren't already. We're supposed to believe that this pandemic is so serious that masks are required for everyone. We're supposed to believe that masks work and save our lives. We're supposed to believe that ISBE and the governor have our best interest at heart and are enforcing this for our safety. Therefore, I ask you, why doesn't the same rule apply to the governor? Just last week, after the governor issued the mask mandate, the governor was in Uplift High School in Chicago, Illinois, and not wearing a mask. I can provide the pictures, or you can see it on his Twitter page. He also allowed a child and a parent standing next to him to not wear the mask in the school. There are no mask exceptions for the governor. COVID doesn't pick and choose, right? It's either required for everyone's safety at all times, including the governor, or it's not. Don't tell me he's vaccinated, because so am I. Don't tell me it was after 3 o'clock or there wasn't student present. We have to on in-service days as well. Don't tell me that he took it off for just a short time, because that luxury isn't given to kids and teachers. Why does the governor get to decide when he can remove a mask in a school but teachers cannot? Why can a kid and a mother with the governor remove their mask, but the kid without the governor cannot? If masks don't need to be worn during bill signings and governor photo ops in schools, then they shouldn't be mandated to teachers and students. According to the Worldometer website, several of our border states have lower death rates per population with less restrictions. Is this really about safety, or is this politics? If the governor has the choice in a school, teachers and kids should too.
Well, thank you again to everybody for taking the time to come down and express your views. We really appreciate that. I know, Gibson, we have item 3 as the next item on the agenda, but I think for the board's sake, it would be helpful to give everybody just a little break to use the facilities or anything else, and then we will come back here to begin with 3A. My understanding is that with respect to 3B, which was the school year 2021-2022 reopening update, we've decided to take that off of the agenda in order to allow for public participation. And so we're just going to give everybody
Nice, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
appreciation to make the time in the first place. So with that, we'll have break maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll appreciate 10.